Shalom, first and foremost, above all things, I want to give all praises and all honor and glory that's definitely due to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah Bashem Rakakradash. Like to give a special double honors to our elders and apostles on down at Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect. May the blessing of election be upon your household, on you sincere brothers and you few sisters out there that listen and take heed to the true doctrine of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is spoken by his servants, the prophets. And lesson for today, you know, you can never trust, you know, your enemies. And Lord willing, I hope you pray just to be edifying. So, especially being in this time that we're living in, it is very important to know who your enemies are. And the enemies right now are those who are not in this truth and knowledge. And first and foremost, the Esau Edom, which this truth is not for Esau Edom, but they're definitely our enemies. And for a long time, Jake has put their trust in this devil who rules over this earth. And you have to understand, you Jakes out there, you so-called Native American Indians, you so-called Negroes, you so-called Latinos or Hispanics, you're all the children of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And Esau Edom, so-called white man, is your enemy. And I was looking at a video on TikTok, and the rapper from back in the day in the 90s, CL Smooth, he was talking about something where Esau was talking to Jake, to right after the war to invest their money put their money in a bank, and so I think it was about 61,000 Jakes that decided to put their money in the bank account, in a bank account, what have you, and this bank went and invested all of Jake's money, and these Jakes did not get their money back. And I believe one of the civil rights leaders was Frederick Douglass. One of them, he put at least $10,000 into the bank. So you think about it, $10,000. You can imagine back then, in that time, it was a lot of money, and so right now, well, going back to that story, they made poor investments, went and used Jake's money and went and made some poor investments that didn't come through, and so they lost their money. So guys like Frederick Douglass, so-called civil rights leader, what have you, activist, he lost $10,000, and so did the other Jakes in there that had money, and invested in that. So you mean just, here it is, you just got out of the war. You so-called, America portrays it that they were trying to help Jake get out of his freedom, so this is why they went to war, which we realize later on down the line, because the Lord reveals all things, that it wasn't about that. It was basically turning, all Jakes into debt slaves, basically, and really all people. Eventually, that's what it turned out to be, especially going into the the 20th century, you know. And so you have to understand that this man Esau Edom is not for you Jakes, man. So let me go to some scriptures here. That story inspired me to do this video. Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. So, you know, you're not supposed to trust thy enemy. And the enemy right now to you Jakes out there is Esau Edom, because the scriptures tell you in Job chapter 9 and verse 24, the earth is given unto the wicked. The Bible also refers to Esau Edom as the wicked. You know, Sirach chapter 12, I'll go to verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, and yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Yeah, so even though he might humble himself, and you know, because you could imagine he probably was talking real smooth to them Jakes back then, you know, about how good it would be for you to put your money in the bank and invest it, and you know, you can grow interest and all this kind of matters, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden they buy into it. All of them put their money in the bank. I think it was over 61,000 Jakes that did it. And now, you know, they don't have that money no more. That money is gone, you know. And again, that was Frederick Douglass. He put 10,000 in there, and that's a lot of money. I mean, you know, compared to this day right now, I mean, $10,000 is a lot right now. A lot of Jakes right now, we work paycheck to paycheck. You don't have $10,000 on you, you know. But that was even more, a lot more money, even back then, you know. So, but this is what this devil does, you know, because he preys on the foolishness of you Jakes, because you don't realize that this man is your enemy, you know, and you have these Jakes that turn around and, you know, sell out to these Edomites and things of that nature. The great example of it is Nicki Minaj. Here she is. She's running around here praising the Donald Trump, and you know, instantly the people, you know, her social media, what have you, a lot of people stop unsubscribing to her media platform because of these decisions that she made. Because a lot of Jakes are waking up and realizing that these people, these devils, are our enemy, man. And though he humbles himself, yeah, see, you got to understand, he'll humble himself. The scriptures tell you in Psalm chapter 55 and 21, his words are softer than butter, but war is in his heart. Matter of fact, I get it. I think I botched it, but yeah, we'll get that though. But verse 13, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, and any such as come nigh wild beasts? Yeah. Who's gonna pity a charmer that is bitten by a serpent? You know, how are you gonna pit? How would you? Why would you pity someone if you come near a snake? You know, it's just like that old story. You know, back in the day where I think it was a woman. She saw this snake and it was wounded, and she nursed it back to health and everything, took care of it, and the snake healed itself. And then finally went and he bit the woman, and she said, "Why did you bite me? And I took care of you and everything." And the snake said, "Well, I'm a snake. That's what I do." And that's the same thing with Esau. He can't stop from being the devil because that's just who he is. The Lord created him to be the devil. You have an adversary, and he's an adversary. He's an adversary to the Israelites. And Jake has to wake up and see these things, man. So, if you're getting bitten by a snake and it's a snake, who's going to pity you? Everybody's going to be like, well, shit, you shouldn't have been messing with that snake in the first place. Well, the same thing with these devils right here. You shouldn't be messing with them, man. But see, Jake is, foolhardy, man. That's why the scriptures call the Israelites foolish and stupid. We get that too, but let's go to Psalms chapter 55. Psalms 55, verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. I mean, smoother. I said softer, but smoother than butter. But war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil. Yet they drawn. Yet were they drawn swords. Yeah. See, when his words don't work, he's going to draw that sword, because you got to understand that's what he was given. He was given the power of the sword. That was his blessing. When you read Genesis chapter 27, verse 39 and 40, yeah, that's what he was given. Psalms chapter 58 and verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And that's exactly what they did with Jake. They spoke lies, telling them, hey, man, we'll hold your money for you. You can build some interest. You'll have more money than you had that you put in the bank. Come on, take a chance. Go ahead. We got you. We're going to take care of your money. And what happened? They end up losing all their money, And this is what happens with Jake, man. You can look at all of the certain things that this devil has done. You think about the Tuskegee experiments and things of that nature, man. Telling them that, hey, we'll give you this, and you're gonna be healed. And what happened? What end up happening? These guys end up giving it on to the next generation. Infecting the next generation that had the that was involved in that Tuskegee experiment, syphilis. I believe it was. So I think it went to two or three different generations, man. So these devils have to pay for the things that they have done to the nation of Israel, man. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 22. For my people is foolish, they have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. Yeah, see, you would have understanding. You don't know the names of the Heavenly Father and the Son, which the names of the Heavenly Father and the Son are Yahweh and Yahushua. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, which means He is or He exists. And then you have the Son's name, which is Yahushua, which means He that delivers. And they're not calling upon the names. And a lot of them don't know the names. And those who do know the names, they're not calling on them, They're, of course, the elect are, and Lord willing, we're of that ilk. That's why we always want to refer to ourselves as the hopeful elect, you know. And so, with that being said, these other Jakes out here, which are the Bible speaks of as fools and sottish, which sottish means stupid and no understanding. So you have understanding if you knew this truth and knowledge. This truth and knowledge, which begins with the name, knowing the names, calling upon the names of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, you know, having the understanding of these scriptures to know that this devil is your enemy, you know. And so without having this understanding, guess what? The Lord calls you foolish and stupid. So I start again, for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. Yeah, and this is why Jake's been jacked up over and over and over, because they don't have this wisdom and knowledge, and they don't apply this wisdom and knowledge, because at the end of the day, again, it goes back to them being foolish and sottish children. So that means that only that remnant, which is known of the elect, are using it and calling on the names of the Heavenly Father and the Son, man. So, just want to do this video, to just show you that, man, you can't trust thy enemy, man. And the enemy is Esau Edom, the so-called white man. And this devil's going to have to pay for the wickedness that he has done. We have plenty of precepts to bring that out. And eventually it's going to happen, because this devil's downfall is fastly approaching, and we see it in the spirit. We see what's going on with America. The cost of living steady going up. People are crashing out on a daily basis. We just had a man the other day that jumped into dived in some hot grease like he was diving into a pool of water. So these people are crashing out. They're losing it, man. And if you don't have the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai upon you, man, you're gonna get caught up in Jacob's trouble, man. You need that covering, you know. But you have to understand, you can't trust this enemy, and this enemy is Esau Edom. So, Lord willing, I hope and pray that this is an edifying lesson. Once again, I want to give all praises and honor and glory that's definitely due to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakakradash. Till the next time, Lord willing, I'll say Shalom.